Welcome. It is May, so it is time for budget hearings. I want to thank, hi, Nicole. I want to thank the commission because you're in, and I was going to mention this morning, we're in rarefied air here. There are not very many local elected officials who sit through 2 weeks of budget hearings. Generally, they push that onto the manager and staff. The manager and staff bring back a recommended. You look at it from 30,000 feet and away you go. That is not the way we do it in the county. It is not ever the way we've done it in the county. And so I think you represent the people, and this is the people's budget. And I just want to thank you for sitting here and enduring this and helping us make decisions going on to the recommended budget. That we're also a local government that the older I get, and it's getting considerably old, I watch local governments, and many times there will be no empathy for the payer by an elected body or by a staff. And we do that here religiously. We have empathy for the payer. Even in our strategic plan now, there is empathy for the payer, for the taxpayer. So I'm appreciative of that in the county budget process. There is a 6-tenet focus for this year's budget, as there usually is. Number one, we're going to maintain a fiscal balance. We're going to give you a balanced budget at the end of this. We are going to, after the retreat in February, we are going to give you a mill levy reduction and a 4% valuation capture. Not very many local governments pledging to that either. That's the way we're going to now. As we go through, and if the commission modifies that, we'll roll with the flow. That's how we're going into these budget discussions. We are after and considerate of workforce stability, and there's 3 tenets to that. Compensation and benefits, which Sheena talked about at a workshop last week. We've done the best we can under a 4% cap. So, and I think it's responsible, and I think it's good. It's a good government raise for employees. We worry about the environment, their safety, the equipment they have, the cars they drive, the offices they work in, the computers they have. So we try to pay attention to the environment that they work in and make sure it's top notch. And then we want to make sure that their supervisors who supervise them are capable and fair. And that requires training and effort from the department directors and from HR and anyone who touches supervisor capacity. The 4th tenet for the budget is we're going to prioritize mission critical services. The 5th tenet is infrastructure and capital investment. And the 6th target is targeted service enhancements. And when you think about targeted service enhancements, some of that is just by feel. What are we hearing people talk about? What are we reading newspaper articles about? What are we seeing on the news? We know that the appraiser's office needs help this year, so we're going to have to address that in a budget. We know that the treasurer's office has caught a lot of attention, so we need to probably address that in a budget discussion. We know that EMS is busy, and I think all commissioners have mentioned that they want more ambulances on the street if we can pull that off fiscally. So we'll spend considerable time talking about EMS. The major challenges going into this budget look similar to last year. I'm always asked 2 things. When I talk publicly, they'll say, what's the most important part of your job? And I'll say this: we do recommended budget that I have to give to the commission, and that's the most important job I do. They will say, what keeps you up at night? And I will say these things. Public safety costs. We talked a little bit about this at the meeting this morning. I think Commissioner Beatty kind of touched on it. That's everything. We have 9 touch points in public safety, not 1 or 2. Wouldn't it be nice to be a municipal government and have just police or maybe just municipal courts? We have 9 touch points in public safety: sheriff, 911, fire, EMS, courts, DA, regional forensic science center, corrections, and emergency management. All of them are stressed, and the demand from the public on the services that those 9 departments give are at a peak. We have large infrastructure issues, starring the zoo and the arena, which we have talked about in the workshop. We have external forces pressing on us. I get something from Joe Thomas every day. Yesterday it was, we have a gas surcharge on XYZ. We have a tariff surcharge on XYZ. Something different every day, where the charges now for the county operation have had increased costs because of something that's happening at a state or federal level that we can't control. So there's global issues and local issues that go on, and we've all lived through the legislative session where we know that they're just trying desperately to cap that property taxability that they have through actions, four specific actions of the state over the last 20 years, forced our reliance on property tax, and now they want to cut that. And at the same time, we have to provide these services. So those are all pressures going into this cycle. The format for these hearings is twofold. Yesterday, Linda sent you a packet of everybody that is presenting today, and there's three things in that packet. One of them I really want you to read for a specific reason. Number one is the staffing org chart that you're used to seeing. They will not present that as they come forward today. It's in your packet, so you look at it. If you have concerns, feel free to ask questions about that. There's strategic plan documentation in which the departments have worked very hard to craft those over the last 6 months. And then there are KPIs, key performance indicators. That's what I want you to read. Why? Because you represent the people. We can sit here all day long and determine what we think is important. But what's really important is what the people expect and think out in the community, and you represent them. So I want you to look at the key performance indicators to make sure that they make sense to you. And if you're seeing something that's missing or wrong or not important, that's the time to ask questions. So please read those as we go through along with this process. Then when the department heads stand up here and they give you their presentation, will be more used to what you're seeing. They'll have a SWOT analysis. They'll go through their base budget, and then they'll go through decision packages, some of who have a lot and some who have zero. But they'll go through any type of extra ask that they need to make to the commission. I will tell you, for every department head that gets up here, nobody's going to come up here and say, look, I just want to get a grade C. I'm just trying to hit average here for you all. They won't say that. They want to excel. They want to be exceptional, and they're going to make asks that reflect that. So I have a tendency when I see decision packages in $30 million range, I go, holy cow. But these people want to be exceptional. So when they come to you and give that presentation, they believe in their mission, and they're trying to ask you for things that will help them achieve their mission. Lorian, it's her 10-year anniversary of being the budget director. This is the 10th year. So you're up next. She's going to give you, like she always does, financial forecast. And Lindsay was director 4 years before Lorian. So inside this room, you have 14 years of budget director sitting here. It's not, as you say, their first rodeo. So I'm appreciative that we have staff stability around here. I'm appreciative to have this kind of seniority in this organization. I see Tanya, I see Lynn, I see Anna now, I see Brent. People have been here for decades, and that is also rare in local government. So I'm just thankful for my staff and for this budget director who's now going to give us the good or bad news of financial forecast.
Good afternoon. Thank you. So before I start, of course, I do need to thank the budget team. That's Carly Sanchez, Lee McCrae, Dustin Sigler, and Travis Babcock. Of course, all the work they do on the forecast, also all the work they do on the hearings. You would not have those two gigantic binders of information without them. Okay, so always have to start off with the same reminder of what the forecast and the budget are. So the forecast is a planning tool. It projects our actual expenditures and revenue, and it is what we think is really going to happen. While our budget is a maximum spending limit in a given fund for 1 year. To talk about what's actually included in our forecast, we do plan for all of our current services. We have our current adopted CIP, which has $27.1 million in cash funded projects through 2030. And then currently we have a $5 million placeholder in 2031. And then next week you will see the tentative CIP. There's also $41.7 million included for technology review board projects throughout all years of the forecast. We have a stable mill levy rate of 27.567 mills in all years, and that matches to our final 2026 rate. And we have built-in increases of 4% in 2027 through 2031. And that's based on the assumption that that's what we'll be able to capture for value growth in those years. So additionally, we have included a transfer of $2 million from the general fund to the arena fund that's starting in 2027 for each year. We've restored the zoo funding for CIP projects. We've put that back to $400,000 starting in 2027. And we have the funding for the exploration place president ending after 2027. So I do have a couple slides just to talk about things that are currently impacting our budget. It's something to keep in mind just as you hear the forecast and all the needs that come up throughout the hearings. So in this slide, we do have a couple of voter-approved ballot measures that impact the budget. In 1966, there was a vote on the zoo, and that does include a property tax component that we have to levy ad valorem taxes for that maintenance of the zoo and the grounds. In 1982, of course, there was a vote for the aging tax levy up to 1 mil. Then we had the countywide sales tax of 1% in 1985. And then in 2004, there was the 30-month special 1% arena tax, which you can see, of course, ties into that $2 million transfer that we are now planning for the arena. I also just wanted to recap. This is what Lindsay presented to you at the retreat about state actions that impact the budget. From 2008 to 2025, CPI, or inflation, has increased 45%. But during this time, the county has operated 16 programs on behalf of the state. And the expenses for those programs have increased 38%, which is $74 million. Well, the state aid that we receive for these programs has gone down 2%, down to only $38 million that we're receiving for these 16 programs. During this time, our property tax levy for the county has increased 56%, which is about $71 million. Of course, you can see that's less than the $74 million increase for those state programs. So you can see that all of that increase has been going to run those state programs. Also, the BOCC has reduced the mill levy rate from 31.3 mils down to 28.7. That's an 8% decrease. And the price of government has decreased from 0.96 of a cent down to 0.87 of a cent during that time. So, of course, all this increased cost has put a lot of pressure on our budget. So what's not included in the forecast, we don't include additional funding for any new programs or the decision packages that you will hear. All that's been built in is cost of doing business requests. And you can see a summary of those starting on page 5 of your binder. We don't have any unbudgeted community and economic development requests or road projects, unanticipated technology needs, or pending capital improvement needs and priorities. Okay. So you do have your handout, and I'm just going to kind of walk through what's in these at a high level. For most of these, they have not changed from what you saw at the retreat. They're pretty consistent from year to year, so I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights. As a reminder, this is our county property tax funds. That's general fund, WSU, aging, highways, and bond and interest. It'll show you your 25 actuals in dollar amounts, and then each year will show you the percentage increase or decrease from the previous year. So in our key revenue assumptions, for our assessed value increase, our actual increase for 2026 was 8.54%, although the commission only captured 4.29%, which was done by lowering the mill levy by 1.134 mils from that final 2025 rate. Then you can see those 4% increases that we have included for 2027 through 2031. So the other one I really want to highlight on this is row 12, and that's our investment income. County tax funds received $17.6 million in investment income in 2025. Our estimates currently range from $16.4 million in 2026 down to $9.7 million in 2031. So of course we know that these rates are going to come down at some point. So anything that we collect over what we think will eventually be our final rate, we do consider that to be one-time income. If you look at our expenditure side, for pay pools, we had a 5% in 25 and 2026. And then that goes down to 4% starting in 2027 through the rest of the forecast. Of course, we talked about health insurance. Last year, our increase ended up being 9.2%. Our current estimate is 7.7%. So we've increased those outer years starting at 27 to 7%. We used to have it at 5% every year. And of course, Sheena did tell you the plan for keeping it to that 7% in next year. So we have had one change in our expenditures since the retreat, and that is on row 19. That's our fleet charges. Of course, with the rising fuel costs and the surcharges, we do think that those are going to go up quite a bit starting this year. And this is note on row 21, software, hardware maintenance. Of course, these always do fluctuate because it's based on what TRB we have in this year. But in 2025, you'll see a 52.9% increase, which is much higher than we would normally see. And that was due to the new financial system costs. Then that financial system went live at the end of the year. And then if you look at row 23, external agency funding, you'll see an increase in 2025 and a decrease in 2026. That's because last year we had the last contractual payment for exploration place, and we also had the $1 million payment that went to WSU Tech. And then, of course, for the page, it's going to show you what amounts we have in cash funding for TRB, our CIP, debt service. And then we also have started including the arena CIP line. So if you look at our forecasted results, top row, general fund on row 30, you can see now we have a deficit in 2026. And that's due to that one-time settlement that we paid out this year that Brent talked to you about this morning. But you can see that we do have small surpluses in all the other years in our general fund. If you look at row 32 and 33, that's aging and highways. You can see that these have deficits, and that is on purpose because these are the two funds. We're trying to draw them down across the forecast. We have a goal fund balance that we want to meet, and that's how we're planning to do it. And then row 34 for bond and interest, you can see that one we're actually building up. We're trying to meet their goal fund balance by the end of the forecast. This is what we expect our ending fund balances to look like. Our general fund, you can see we're going to stay well above our 20% balance requirement on row 37. Then the other funds, this shows you how they're going up and down each year to meet their goal fund balances, and then what their goal target is that we want to meet by the end of the forecast. And here it just shows you by fund each year our mill levy rate. Again, we have 27.567, but you can see how it fluctuates, and that's how we're drawing those funds up or down each year of the forecast. So as a reminder, what you're going to hear is not our recommended budget. We have not put in adjustments for compensation, health insurance, retirement, work comp. None of those things are built in. So for most departments, you will see a decrease in personnel. When we get to recommended budget, we'll build all these things in, and that will go up. Yes.
So I think this is going to come up. This always comes up every year. I really want this to be understood. Please repeat that part.
Yes.
About what's in personnel.
Yes. So we don't build in a pay pool yet. We don't know what that will be. That's a commission decision. We will have updated health insurance, retirement rates, and work comp rates. Those will all get built in for your recommended budget. So right now, when you see department presentations, a lot of them, their personnel is going to have a decrease. When we get to recommended budget, those are going to go back up to what you would normally expect. But since those aren't built in, that's why you'll see a lot of them go down. Not all of them. There are some that will go up for different reasons. But if you see a decrease, it's because we have not built any of these things in yet.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Seems like I've got to do some math then to figure out how the budget is changing year over year. I don't know why we don't just put in a number that says we plan a number and show that number on the page. So I have to figure that out. I mean, I have to, because last year's number includes salary. I know there's a planned increase, but how am I supposed to know year to year how this budget's changing if we have an expenditure we know of that's going to happen that's not shown on the page? I have to do all the math to figure that out. Sure.
It's exceptionally hard in our system once we plug it in to back it out and redo it. We are literally talking about thousands of records that would have to be updated. This is hearings. This isn't a recommended budget. We still have a lot to hear from you all about what are your priorities. You're not going to see any capital improvement projects built in yet. That's going to be a huge change. This is for you to hear what departments are asking for, understanding that at the end of the day, whatever payroll increases you approve, that's going to be shown in the forecast, and that's really what we plan based on. And so if you tell us down the road that I'm not suggesting this is a good idea, let me be very clear. But if you tell us down the road you don't want a 4% pay pool, you want a 3% pay pool, and you want to not have health insurance premiums go up 7%, you want to let them go up 10%, you just want it to be offset. That would then be exceptionally hard in our system to undo and redo. So that's expectations that then you can't necessarily live with. So this is a rough draft of information that's still going to get a lot of tweaks between now and so I ask you to rely on the forecast and use it as your witness guide for most of it. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
As Lindsay mentioned, there isn't CRP or CIP or TRB included, and we will update fleet and admin charges because those are still at the adopted levels. So our 2027 requested budget totals $611,177,760. We have 29.1 million in decision package requests with 67.25 FTE requests. That's what you'll hear over the next couple weeks. We have 2 revenue packages. We have one from Regional Forensic Science Center to adjust their fee schedule. Then we have one from MAPD to start charging for historic preservation cases. We also have $123,848 in alternative reductions that have been submitted. This would eliminate some unneeded licenses in software and IT, then also the scope lease for ComCare since they're moving into the new ComCare crisis building. For our next steps, currently our budget simulator is running. It'll run through June 7th. Dr. Gua did tell me we've had over 200 submissions and they are almost done pushing out the 50,000 text messages that are going out randomly. So we're hoping to see, we still have a month, so we think we'll be able to see those numbers go up quite a bit. So last day for any changes that will go into the recommended budgets, June 16th. On July 15th, you'll see the recommended budget presentation and the last update. We have 2 proposed hearings. July 29th would be your evening hearing. And August 26th would be the revenue neutral rate hearing and our second budget hearing. August 26th is also budget adoption day. And of course, budget workshops will be scheduled as needed. So everybody that wants to follow the process, you'll be able to find these hearings on our website and on YouTube. And then on July 15th, after the recommended budget has been presented and posted, they will have an online public hearing that will open as well. That I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Lauren, good job. Appreciate it. Hey, would you be able to explain, or Lindsay, if somebody be able to explain slide 5, how do we calculate price of government? That's an interesting, I've heard it before. I think it'd be a helpful reminder.
The price of government is how much revenue, this is my name, so that's fine. So it's a theory that was put out several decades ago. And basically what it does is it takes any revenues paid by taxpayers or citizens, so not grants or anything like that, but it takes that revenue that comes into the organization and puts that relative to the total, basically, what is the word? I'm thinking
Personal income.
This is big. It puts it relative to the personal income. So it divides our revenues into that. And that can be done for any government that basically produces an audit document. You can go in and find out what those dollars are relative to that price of government standard fluctuate depending on what types of services that government provides, if they have utilities or not. But in this case, for us, kind of the standard is about a penny. What that means is when it's at about a penny, what we see is general contentment from a community. And this isn't just us, this is what science says. There's a couple of books about this. The lower it gets, that can sometimes show that, yeah, you're not paying much for government, but you're probably also seeing an increase in dissatisfaction for the level of service provided. On the flip side, once that gets above a penny, what you'll see is that people are paying too much. And so maybe you're running platinum level services where gold standard or silver standard might be. So this is something that in terms of the personal income in our community, it has grown. I think we're seeing some anomalies in the data with inflation and everything else. Wealth and earnings, I'll say, have gone up exponentially the last few years. While at the same time, you guys have intentionally held down the revenue. And so what that may tell us is, yes, at some point there may become a level of service dissatisfaction, level of service delivery based on what prior data has told us. So that's why, again, things like your community survey and the budget simulator are really get that feedback on the pricing.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I'm going to hand it over to the sheriff. He'll be our first department presentation, and we're going to be starting on page 286 of your binders.
Good afternoon, Sheriff. All right. Good afternoon. Hopefully this is the last time you see me today. So I want to start out with real quick because I think it correlates with our first slide in here. What our goals are through strategic planning with the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office. We have 7 goals: retention, attraction, communication, community safety, health and wellness, technology, and future planning. And so when you look at the SWOT analysis that's been done, our strengths, we've seen a notable improvement in public safety with property crimes down 15.9% and fatality accidents down 15%. That's from year 2025 to 2024. And so when it correlates to our community safety strategic plan, those are the 2 biggest things that we do out in the county as far as call load is property crimes and accidents. Health and wellness and other employee-focused initiatives have strengthened retention while elevating overall morale and engagement. Our weakness, we're experiencing challenges in recruiting qualified applicants for both law enforcement and detention positions. Lower applicant numbers make it more difficult to consistently attract and retain the most capable individuals needed to provide effective community or public service. Opportunities, recent declines in property crime and fatality accidents show that current strategies are working by continuing proactive policing, data-driven approaches, and strong community partnerships. We have the opportunity to further reduce crime and traffic fatalities while improving overall community safety. Threats, again, recruitment numbers have recently decreased. Past staffing shortages resulted in higher overtime and lower morale. To prevent a repeat of these issues, maintaining competitive salary and benefits and prioritizing employee retention is essential. From a standpoint of our budget request, we have none. So we have no decision packages to present to you. So our general fund revised in 2026 to requested in 2027 is $85,042,000. Sheriff grants has decreased a little bit by about 0.24%. JAG grant, which we had just received, we have not made any expenditures out of the JAG grants. From a budget request standpoint, again, I have no budget requests, but this is revised, which explains for the increase in our budget. Goes from personnel costs to 65 million roughly to 66 million. Contractuals goes up by 1.25%. Commodities decreased by 0.8%. Equipment, we didn't have a request last year, or we've spent the request for the equipment last year, so we have no request there this year. Interfund transfers goes from 15,000 to 20,000. Please don't ask me what that means because I have no idea. So saw it and went, I probably should have asked a question on that before I came here. Yeah. And that's it.
I just 2 comments, Sheriff. First, I think the public isn't fully aware that you often give back dollars to the general fund. You work for people, and times you probably could have used those dollars or put them to use in the department somehow, but you've given dollars back. I just want the public to be aware of that. I don't remember what the number was last year. You may know offhand.
Yeah, it's 4.2 million.
Yeah, that's rather significant. So I appreciate that. I think people will appreciate that. The second thing is one of the things on your every year that I've seen exponential growth in your budget is in medical costs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we should be doing to help support you in managing this? Are there things that you need from us in this, or help us help you in regards to that?
Yeah, it is. There's nothing that you can do as a commission to help us with this. There's really nothing. We can't predict these. That's the problem with medical costs. Is most everything else we can predict, we can budget for. Medical cost is up and down. I mean, I have one recently passed away. His medical costs were exorbitant. We have another one that's in our custody right now. Can't really talk about what is going on there. But the possibility of while they're in our custody, they could be in MICU the entire time because they have been since they've been with us, which is at the hospital. And so We're working through those issues. That one there is going to be, if we have to keep that person in MICU charged with a very high level crime, trial date is minimum 9 months from now, could be 2 years from now. And so there's other things that we've worked on there. That person's back with us now, and has been with us for about 4 days, where originally hadn't been with us at all. So you have those kind of issues, numerous other issues with other inmates, everyday basis. We have 3 in the hospital right now.
These are property taxes that have to be used, local property tax dollars that have to be used. So, and these are things that were completely out of your scope. You're required to perform these services.
Right.
Okay, well, I think I knew the answer, but I wanted to make sure publicly that if there was something we could do to support you, that we were aware of that. So
No, I appreciate that, sir.
Just to, again, we're just getting started, so please have grace here. I'm not trying to be critical, but the personnel cost is about 1% higher, even though it doesn't include any raises or whatever. Why 1% increase?
That's for the changes to courthouse security that happened this year and the new deputies for ComCare. They're absorbing it in their budget this year, so that's adding the costs in going forward.
On the strengths,
Yes,
that I just want to make sure. I love it. Property crimes down 15.9. That's positive.
that's correct.
Right?
Yes, that's positive.
And reduced accident. Is that countywide, including cities?
No.
Wichita, that's just in the unincorporated area.
Correct.
Just in the county.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
We have done numerous projects in our high accident locations, which we have projects going all the time, increase deputy presence, increase citations being given in our high accident locations, which we truly believe has cut down on fatalities. We also have DUI enforcement that we do on a periodic, because most of our fatality accidents are DUI related. And so we've stepped up patrols on that and special assignments on DUI patrols.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thanks. You all have a great day.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Nope.
Our next presentation will be from District Attorney Mark Bennett and will be on page 306 of your binder.
No comment today. Trying to be in and out quick.
Good afternoon. I hope your ears weren't burning too much at the commission meeting today.
Oh, I was training Easter's troops on the Fourth Amendment. I'm sure they would have rather had me here than talking to them. So all right. So you know what, I'm going to guess you guys have seen all these things several times. So if anybody has a question about something like this, I'm happy to go back, but I'm going to be respectful of the fact that you've been in budget meetings all day and are going to probably be for a while yet. So I'll get cut to it here. You know what my workforce is, you know what we need. Our strategic plan is to be as efficient as we can with the resources you provide for us. We've had some key performance indicators. I do want to point out one thing that's different. If you're paying attention to the presentation I made to the managers team versus this team, you will see right here, 4.4 is different than the one I sent to you guys. We ran the numbers because that just didn't seem right and our program was off. And so we are actually, our goal is to reduce caseloads by cases disposed, try to get a reduction of 1%. And so we're moving cases faster. Actually, we're at 4.4 from, and so we've hit that mark. So, but that was not reflected in my presentation. And again, that's a function of us going back and running the numbers again through our records management system because we had a mistake in that. So 4.4 is the accurate number. The resolution docket, you guys have heard me talk about that. I'm not going to beat that into the ground, but it is continuing to do what we've asked it to do. 87% of the cases that were referred to that last year were resolved. the bottom line is I'm more impressed with the downstream impact of this docket and we're putting a lot of effort into it, but we're getting the return on investment for the county. It's keeping people getting processed through the jail. It's allowing us to, still with fewer attorneys than we've ever had, and working in the defense bar in Sedgwick County to continue to meet the need of what we are doing. I should have had this exact number. I know that in the month of April, we tried probably close to 25 jury trials in 3-4 weeks. And that's a pretty good clip. Shawnee County last year tried 31 in the year. So my point is, and that's not to beat our chest, we're able to do that because all the low-level cases are being resolved, not all, but a lot of them are being resolved in RD, so that the judges have the time and the attorneys have the time to focus on the murder cases, the rape cases, the child sex cases, those sorts of things. So, and even the property crimes, when they need to be tried, they're tried. So anyway, a lot of impact there. And obviously, whether you've been on the commission or just watched, my issues over the years have been trying to recruit and retain employees and primarily attorneys, because all the reasons everybody knows about, not the least of which is we don't have enough lawyers in the state of Kansas right now. So anyway, that's been an issue for us. However, I can say without equivocation that the raises this body gave to my office, what's it been now 3-4 years ago, you're now seeing 96% maintenance of our FTEs. We were at 19% vacancies when I came back. I had 11 openings in my attorney ranks at one point. That was non-sustainable. And so there's nothing else that's changed. We haven't had some other manna from heaven. This was directly related to the budget, to the budget increase in the salaries that the Board of County Commission gave us. So I appreciate that very much.
This is where your name came up today during the commission meeting, because whenever we had the law proclamation, we got to talking about some of your suggestions about having a law school down here. And this actually came up in an en banc between pro tem and mayor and vice mayor.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to invite you to our next en banc and give that presentation. And Commissioner Beatty even mentioned the regents, and we'll have some discussion offline about that, but we want to highlight.
I'll give you one anecdote. I'm not going to name the name of the county, but a couple of you would be very interested in know which county because you've got ties to it. A friend of mine who retired from prosecution a couple of years ago went and lent a hand to a specific small county within 1 hour drive of this place. And in the last month, he's gotten 2 guilty verdicts. And he let me know that he is led to believe that those are the first guilty verdicts in that county in 7 years. And that's not a function of inexperience. It's a function of not having enough lawyers to do the work. So there is a public safety component to this. You got to have the right people. I've got great folks, but I've got a couple of folks that are about to retire this year. They're going to walk out and take about 80 years of experience with them. Got another person who's potentially got a transfer from a spouse that may have, I'm not suggesting they get a divorce and stay, they'll have to go along, that's my one joke of the day. But we're going to lose some folks. So no matter what we do, we're always going to have turnover. The key is getting good people in and getting them started with us so they can learn this skill. There's no class I can send them to be able to try a murder or rape case. It's only experience. So anyway,
I think I've seen this case.
Hey, Mark, real quick, I want you to know something. You're the only one that's really talking about this publicly. I think there's a serious lack of awareness to the public and our citizens, not just of the need, but the impact. So I think you're going to find a commission that wants to support you in this legislative agenda conversations, bringing you to staff meetings to present on these things and en banc with the city of Wichita. I think you're going to see a commission that wants to elevate this topic publicly so that the citizens are aware. And Justin had some great information today about surrounding law schools in Tulsa, and Oklahoma City, and Omaha, and Lincoln, and Kansas City, and Topeka, and yet Wichita, nothing here. And we see the impact west of Topeka. So I just want you to know that you're going to find a commission that wants to support you in this and elevate this cause.
It's a big issue. So, all right. Also working on reducing the days from first appearance till the discovery is provided. Obviously, that's an issue for us, and we're continuing to work on that. The impact of the Prosecution Plus that you all authorized in December, I think we haven't even seen the results of that yet. That's last year. So we're going to have that this year. I think we'll have an even bigger return. It's in the process. We're getting it online. So yeah, we're opening it up with the provider and we're training our folks on how to do it. So we're getting it online right now. So I can't tell you that we're fully operational, but I think I'm going to a training myself later this week on it. So
Early thoughts is
it's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Budget requests. Again, I think my next couple slides will help me explain this a little bit better, but you can see the information contained in slides 7 and 8. So one thing, attorney training, there's a reason that's at 0 in the JAG grants. The attorney training fund comes from during the course of the year from fees associated with each journal entry. And so that comes back to us. Obviously, we don't know how many cases are going to be resolved in the course of the year, so it's hard to budget for that. Anyway, all right. So decision packages, though, what I wanted to take the most time with here. Decision package number 1 is the attorney internship program. To be clear, we have had an internship program for years for law students. And so we're talking about kids that after their second year of law school, it's a 3-year program. After year 2, you can apply to be an intern and actually you can get a temporary license. And so we interview and have done this as many years as I've been in the office. And we try to get kids typically from KU Washburn to come to Wichita, spend their summers, get a temporary license. They work in our traffic division, and we try to get them preliminary hearings and even a jury trial while they're still a law student. And so it's been a great source for us to find talent and try to get them turned on to the job we do here. There's over the years been literally dozens of people who have come on staff after having been interns in the office. It's a great way to figure out. I mean, it's a 3-month job interview for them and for us. And so I think it's been a wonderful thing. So we've been doing this all these years. We also have been trying to do more of a grow your own lawyer sort of routine with kids in high school and college. There are certain limitations to being able to employ somebody who's under 18. So that limits our high school kids. But when they get into college and start thinking about maybe law school, we have started we've done that anecdotally. This year, we are really formalizing our process. And so we had 17 applicants, I think, and we've picked 5 kids to come in for the summer to be interns. All this to say, we're going to do this and we're going to continue to do this. We've always done it with salary savings, which is fine. But a few years ago, a decision was made. We had been doing something else in the office just with salary savings over the years. And a suggestion was made by finance and the county manager, put it on the budget so that it's planned for. What if we don't have a salary savings 1 year? Then we'd have these obligations. I'd be coming back to the county. It'd be better to put it on the budget right up front. So this is a situation where whether it's this year or next, we're gonna do this irrespective. But the idea is get it on the budget, get it a line item so that you know what it is you're taking care of. One point is it's estimated 5 FTEs. It's really not, because that's not a 12-month thing. These are summer interns. And also we are now up to, we've had 4 third-year anywheres out of Washburn. So their 3rd year of law school, they can come to work for us. And we have hired 2, and I've got a couple others this year who have, if they pass the bar, will come work for us in the fall. So it's been tremendous to get them in the door. So the college kids, the law students, and then this 3rd year anywhere group, those are the ones. That's how we're trying to get them back to Wichita, get them in the mix, get them a taste for it, and keep them in line, keep them coming back. So that's what package number 1 is for. Package number 2 is a JAG grant. Simply put, this is something we've done for years, has to do with a software package that we use for handling of cases within the office. I'm guessing, I'm expecting that this will be something we can withdraw from the final proposal. But when we were asked to submit packages, there was a situation where a great number of grants had not been opened up by the federal government. Won't go into all the details of why that is. I'd just be speculating anyway, but there were a number of grants that had not even been opened up. So it's not as if they've been denied. They just were not available to even apply. And so when we first submitted this, that was the case on this particular grant. It has since opened up. We have since applied, and we have gotten it for years. I don't remember how many years now that we've received this. I fully expect that we'll get it again. So if it all falls into place, we'll move to withdraw this at some point. But if not, we wanted to have it on the budget so you know that this is something we have utilized and have needed in the past. Finally, just a synopsis of it. This is the total $72,000 increase. And if my assessment of the JAG funding is accurate, that will be, by the time of your final budget, 62,136. We'll drop off that 10 grand, 10,268, because I think we're going to get the grant that we've always gotten. So that's trying to keep it as quick as I can without wasting your time. I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioners, questions?
Thank you, Chairman. I see they get a small benefit, like $601 worth of benefits as a part-time. What's that for?
That's for things like the labor taxes and unemployment taxes. It's not any actual health benefits. It just calls it benefits.
Thank you. You answered that much quicker than I would have.
What else, guy?
No.
That's it.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
Next, we'll be going to District Court on page 326 of your binder. I see Joni Wilson and Judge Gearing are here.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to the commission. Joni's passed out the slideshow that we have. Basically, we have, I think, 4 decision packages. Joni can get into the nitty-gritty details. The decision package number 1 has to do with equipment that our IT people need in order to function with the Odyssey system. Again, Joni can explain it far better than I can. Package number 2 is increase in funding to KLS so that they could expand the services that they're providing already to the PFA and PFS docket. Decision package number 3 is a request to increase funding on sync guarding ad litems. This is brought about by a couple of things. Number 1, I think that we're starting to get away from the market in terms of what we're paying these attorneys. But number 2, there's been some changes in the law that's going to increase the services that these sync attorneys have to provide. So we're sort of looking ahead on that. Decision package number 4 is pretty much maintenance, that we're trying to do routine maintenance on the courthouse in various chambers. Our position is that it's easier to do small amounts routinely than to do large amounts when the problem is too big to ignore. So that's sort of a 50,000-foot view, and Joni can give us a little bit more detail.
Good to see you again this afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's my second appearance today. Joni Wilson, District Court. Judge hit some of the decision packages that I would like to talk about today, but I have a few things to go over before that. It was asked of us to perform a SWOT analysis of what's going on in the court today. There are a few things that I'm going to talk about that are going to sound repetitive that you've heard already. As far as our strengths, we have great staff working for District Court. We have comment cards that come out for the public to fill out, and I think 99% of what we get is positive. It's great to hear that the public appreciates what the staff does. We have become operational again in our process to dismiss cases after we switched from full court to Odyssey, and then we had our unfortunate hacking event. We were down for several months, and then it took several months to get that data put back in. So we're back up to full strength on doing that, which is helping keep our stats low and are more accurate. We are also able now to work the reports to help keep cases that may have fallen in the cracks back up and running. And I also think we have an excellent partnership with the stakeholders that we work with. The weaknesses that we have are we have a large turnover of staff in our clerk's offices. And right now we do have staff shortages that does impact the work we do. We've also, this year will be our last year for ARPA funding. It's covered as court backlog in our budget. We will be losing 2 programs that I think will affect the court, one of which is the second chair attorney program, in which we fund second chair on high level off-grid cases to allow attorneys to get the experience they need to work these cases. There are requirements of how many hearings or trials they have to be a part of before they can do that on their own, which speaks to the attorney shortages that we have in Sedgwick County. Not as bad as in other districts, but we are planning for that. So that will be unfunded this year. And we also have funding for domestic conciliators on family law cases in which families that are having difficulties can be sent to conciliator to help work out their differences. I anticipate that may affect the court in other ways when that funding is gone. We don't know yet. But we do have in-house child custody investigations. More of those may go to them. Another weakness, and I think we'll probably see this more next year, but is the need for additional funding to increase attorney fees. We pay $100 an hour, bids pays $120. And I do get a lot of feedback from attorneys that we don't pay enough here. So we have raised it, however, in the past few years from $70 an hour to $100 an hour, which has been helpful. The threats, I think one of the biggest threats that we face in the future is loss of qualified court-appointed counsel. Also a threat I feel that we're looking at under the CIP is security for judges and staff. The rising costs of products and just the cost of doing business. Difficulty in securing interpreters. We've had more difficulty this year than we have in years past. We're seeing increase in case filings without additional staff. And also, of course, future security breaches. We are a little bit paranoid after what we've gone through, and then also staff burnout by the increased work. Oh, I didn't talk about opportunities, sorry. We have been looking at the review of processes and procedures and just dipping our toe into AI. We are wanting to develop a self-help center on site to promote access to justice by assisting the public. We want to increase public trust, and we do that by working through things like moving dockets to allow more time. Let people know we're there to assist them. And also we have increased our training of staff and management team. We're going to be seeing retirements at district court that will be painful. And so we need to get people up to speed to take those positions. So our general fund request for 2027 is almost 4.8 million. That's a decrease in 21.67%. And thanks to Dustin, I know why that is. It's mostly due to a decrease in contractuals because of the funding for the court backlog ends this year. And there's also a decrease in personnel because they budgeted benefit rates at a more normal level compared to 26. And there was also funding for a one-time CIP project, which hasn't taken place yet. And that's for the gallery wall movement in the new courtrooms. And hopefully that will come to fruition this year. And also the DC grants, that is the grant we have for Veterans Treatment Court. This is a summary of what we're requesting. Okay, the decision packages. The first decision package is in regards to cluster funding, which ties to our strategic goal number 2 and will help us achieve our KPI of reducing the number of instances in which the computer system is unavailable. Simply put, without this, we don't operate. We can't access any of our computer systems, which is the only way we can operate in Sedgwick County. And that request is for $85,000. District Court Decision Package number 2 is going to be an annual increase of $25,000 per year to fund KLS to extend the PFA, PFS docket. I think we've talked about that today, so I'll move on. District Court Decision Package number 3, like Judge Gehring talked about earlier, is the increase for Saint Guardian ad litems. We have 8 contract attorneys, 2 for each juvenile judge that represent children in child need of care cases. And we're asking for an increase of $40,800 annually. This does not include any FTE positions. And honestly, I don't even think this request is enough, to be honest, with the hours that they are putting in. I think it's a start, and then for a bigger review next year. I do have a letter from our presiding judge. I kind of want to just talk about a little bit of that. He states that recent reports indicate that Sedgwick County guardian ad litems are handling caseloads 5 times higher than the national standard. The national best practice is the National Association of Counsel for Children recommends a maximum of 20 to 30 cases for part-time advocates. Sedgwick County reality is local guardian ad litems are routinely assigned 125 to 150 active cases. Under Kansas Supreme Court Rule 110A, a guardian ad litem is not merely a placeholder, but an active investigator. To comply for this rule for one child, a guardian ad litem must conduct independent investigations by personally reviewing extensive medical, educational, and DCF records, interview key witnesses by regularly speaking with foster parents, teachers, therapists, and biological parents, maintain regular contact, visiting the child to explain complex legal proceedings in age-appropriate terms, and monitor compliance through track court orders and service plans to prevent children from languishing in care. Attempting to fulfill these ethical obligations for 150 children on a part-time schedule is mathematically impossible. The current workload forces dedicated attorneys to choose between burnout or providing inadequate representation, a liability for the county, and a tragedy for the child.
Joni, is it okay, Chair? Would you be able to send us that letter so we can put this in?
Absolutely.
Also, I don't know, Justin, Chief Judge had mentioned that there's some changes coming down the pipe. I think there's statute changes that might be coming down the pipe will have some impact here.
So I was thinking about that.
If we can have
My memory was, that this may have been related to the probate docket, not the sync docket.
Okay.
But I'll reach out to our people and get you up.
Just let us know. Yeah, I'd really like to understand this challenge a little bit more too. So we might do a little bit more questions and some research into what needs to happen here on the sync side of things. So I'll be reaching out, see if we can get a little bit more data of what's happening here too.
That'd be great. Thank you. Our fourth decision package is, we're requesting $50,000 annually. We think we could accomplish doing the recarpeting, painting in 3 years in the juvenile court CSO section. I'm not 100% sure, but I do not believe there's been new carpet since the building was built. So. So total for our decision packages is $200,800. The second department for court trustee is the office of the court trustee. And we have prepared a SWOT analysis for that as well. They too have strengths of hardworking staff. And one of their threats is also the retirement of long-term staff. The non-4D child support division also has been losing cases each month. Cases are either closing or being sent to DCF for enforcement. And that's due to mandatory programs with DCF. If a parent applies for food assistance, SNAP, or child care, that's a mandatory enforcement. And so the 4D department contract holder takes that over. So they've been losing cases on that. We have been monitoring their fees, and they are still operational just based on the fees that they collect, which is really good to share. Some of the opportunities they're looking at is being able to automatically enforce both child support and spousal support debts. Enforce all spousal support orders that are filed. Right now, they have to have an order for that. Development of written internal policies for consistency among teams, and they are also looking at developing AI processes. And their budget is also showing a reduction of 21.7%. And again, they are completely funded through the fees that they collect through enforcement of child support. Yes.
What facilities touched by that? Do you have any idea of how much state?
That decision package is only for the juvenile CSO section. And I believe we do have bids for that. I can send you to review, but that would cover an outside painting contractor, moving, which includes John Marshall, which is expensive, maybe more expensive than the painting. And then also the flooring, which I think they've looked at both carpet and luxury vinyl tile also, which seem to run a pretty similar prices.
And you've done a lot of areas or offices so far. I'm just recalling back to when I walked through the offices as a new commissioner. I know that there were still some undone spaces. Does this get you to 100% complete with the projects that maybe, I think COVID dollars were used to do some of the stuff previously, and maybe it didn't stretch far enough to cover this last 150,000? Is that accurate?
So we used COVID dollars for the 4 new courtrooms and some other items. And so carpeting was included in that. But I do not believe we used any ARPA funding for carpeting outside of those areas. We have utilized the funding that we have to carpet some of the worst areas. We've recarpeted a few chambers and their spaces with the money we have. We just don't have enough funding to cover this big of a job.
Quick question. Thanks. On decision package 1, the dreaded Odyssey.
The cluster.
Yeah,
Well,
Appropriate
that's what they
name. I
call
was
it.
gonna say cluster
Yeah.
funding is nice name. Out of that anyway. So this is kind of before Scott's time with us, but so it, what's our exposure here with not doing that? I know what we did when we didn't address Odyssey, or we addressed it the wrong way first time. So explain.
Okay, I have some information to read, if that's okay, or Scott's welcome to interpret from his angle.
Scott, are you saying, yes, this is a must or a want?
I'm saying you don't want to hear her read that. We all heard it during the manager hearing. It's extensive, but how I could summarize this is you have data centers and they deliver compute, which means the CPUs and all that kind of stuff. The cluster they use to run all the applications within the district court needs to be upgraded. And so this cluster is going to be invested 80 some K and take them into the future. From a security standpoint, this would be replacing maybe outdated gear and those kinds of things, and you can have some vulnerabilities there. Ultimately, though, I don't see this as directly related to the Odyssey challenge from the past. But is that a fair?
Yeah. Is this something that Johnson County, everybody has to do, needs to do to?
Oh yeah, we do it. Everybody does it.
Everybody has to
Over
do it.
time, that's where a lot of our routine spend is. It's just higher than this. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. That's what to do.
Thank you.
Chairman, while Joni's walking away, I want to give her props. I did this during the manager hearings too. The way she's strategized and connected strategic goals with KPIs to decision packages is exactly how we want it done. So thank you. Joni, for that.
Thank you.
I also, all the information on the guardian items that you put in just that's so,
Great.
so thank you.
I didn't want to do overkill, but it's very important.
Very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we'll be moving to the county counselor on page 43 of your binders. And I'll hand it over to Justin Wagner.
Afternoon, Justin.
Afternoon, commissioners and county staff as well. For the public, because I know that we are recording these meetings, Justin Wagner, Sedgwick County Counselor. Kirk's passing out our slideshow presentation here. Get started with our first slide. It deals with our SWOT analysis. In terms of strengths, we have attorneys, a team of attorneys that possess very strong subject matter expertise, and they've developed that over the past handful of years. Also, I think we've demonstrated an ability to successfully aid in the completion of high-level projects that are important to the organization. Under weaknesses, and I feel like I've already heard a couple of departments, and it sounds similar to a lot of those, but in terms of we have a limited number of attorneys, limited number of limited depth in certain subject areas. And that can lead to challenges, especially when we're short-staffed. If we're down one or two attorneys, those may be the one or two attorneys in our office who have subject matter and expertise in a certain area. And that's one of, you'll see I've mentioned our opportunities, but we're trying to cross-train to have more depth in each area. The second weakness is just that our workload exceeds our capacity. Zealous advocacy requires time and preparation. It's not just off the cuff legal work. It involves legal research, crafting of contracts, things along those lines. I've listed a lot of opportunities because I do think, improvement's something that we're always looking to do as an office. In terms of CLE trainings, we can build expertise. In terms of further refining and developing our litigation processes, that's something that is an ongoing process, but I think we can make improvements on. Also, we intend to implement, there's some of this is stuff that we're attempting to get accomplished, but in terms of getting a program management software to assist in promoting efficiency of both our attorneys and our support staff. And then lastly, cross-training and skills developments. I think those are all areas where if we can get multiple subject matter experts in each area, that would be very, very beneficial for the county. The last item in terms of threats, compensation amounts just makes us, compared to some of our peers, we're behind some of those. And so there's concern always in those situations about loss of employees. And then lastly, Our attorneys and staff are operating in a constant state of triage, which I think organizationally is that can be detrimental organizationally. It could lead to burnout, turnover, those types of things. And in terms of when you see our budget numbers, you'll notice that there is a reduction from our 2026 revised. That's due in part to we had an outside counsel budget increase earlier this year that you all approved. That's why our 2026 numbers are as high as they are relative to our 2027 requested. And that shows up in the contractuals on this next slide. We have one decision package, so keeping it pretty easy there. And it's a pretty straightforward one. We're asking for an additional assistant county counselor. The rationale on here is, our mission is to provide high quality, nonpartisan legal services to the county commissioners, elected and appointed officials, as well as department and division heads and advisory boards. That requires a certain requisite amount of legal services. And if we're short staffed, it's hard to do that. Really becomes really difficult to accomplish our mission, which is important to the organization. The total dollar request of this decision package, including salary and benefits, is $131,000 approximately. In terms of background on this, I think there's some background that's useful for the commissioners and also any of the public. Last time that our office added an attorney position was 1996. So it's been 30 years. So if this would get approved, it would have been 31 years since we last added an attorney position. And back when we did that, we added the attorneys number got up to 8 in 1996. In 2017, we reduced by 1 in our office. A position was transferred from the county counselor's office to the sheriff's legal advisor. And so we began to have 7 attorneys in our office. That's where we remain today. We have 7 attorneys in the county counselor's office. I'm going to get into more detail here, both on this slide, talking through it, but also with some quantifiable data. In terms of our workload has increased pretty significantly. I've been at the county counselor's office for 13 years, so I'm going to speak to both that some. I'm going to speak to more recent, and then I'm going to show some trends over the past decade. And so there's really 5 areas, if I were to look right now in terms of that are most significant, if I break it down as to where our workload has increased. First off, as county commissioners, you all, and this is a good thing, you challenge the status quo. If there's something that should be improved, you try to improve it. And I think you're quite successful in accomplishing that in a lot of things. You also look for solutions. In challenging the status quo, looking for solutions, that often involves legal work on our office's part, and not just a little amount of legal work. It can take a lot of work. And those, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think these are good things. But examples would be the state psychological hospital that's under construction now. There was a gap in the community. County commissioners have stepped up to fill that gap, but there's a lot of legal work that's been involved in that. The groundwater pollution, and I know in Commissioner Beatty's district, there was that project that, I think I crafted 3 or 4 agreements related to that, a lot of extensive negotiations. We were talking about the Kansas Highway Patrol project just yesterday at the BOCC staff meeting. All those things take a significant amount of work, but those are all projects that help your community, help Sedgwick County residents. But our office is integrally involved in those. I know a lot of other departments in this organization are too. Second, that I had out of those 5 things was major zoning matters. I mean, I think you all are living this right now, but data centers, we've got 2 very large solar applications. We've got a moratorium for battery energy storage systems. And that's in addition to all the other day-to-day zoning work that we're doing. So that's clearly trended up. And I think that's going to be trended up for a while in the future. The third area is legislative work. We've been taking on a lot of work in terms of bill crafting, advising, and there's a lot of work. Tanya Cole does an exceptional job on what she does in managing that. Our lobbyist does an exceptional job, but our attorneys also do a lot of work on that, whether it's bill crafting, whether it's reviewing items and advising on the impact of draft bills that are out there. But in a lot of cases, we've been crafting those and getting them really essentially to the revisor's office for legislative consideration, which is something we really didn't do like a decade ago very frequently. In terms of the 4th item that I had in that, in terms of just increased workload, is our lawsuits and claims have increased. I'm going to have a slide that talks about that here in 2 or 3 slides. And then lastly, we've had a significant increase in county facilities projects. And again, you've all as commissioners been involved in those. whether it's been, the crisis center, the admin building, the elections building. I already talked about the state psychiatric hospital project. Those all require work on our office's part, whether it's the acquisition, the contract, the property acquisition process, the contracting portion, the title work, any of the work as it's being constructed or modifications are made. There's a lot of legal questions that come up in that. And really for the bulk of that, we've utilized in-house counsel for that. I know it's not been pretty common that we use outside counsel for that, but since I've been county counselor, other than specialized construction law work, we haven't used outside counsel on any of those other projects I mentioned. So that's the fifth area out of those five. Moving on to the quantifiables, and I want to explain this graph a little bit. This is the last 10 years of contracts, the number of contracts that our office has completed. 2020 is a bit of an outlier. I think those of us who are working at the county then know that we had a lot of ARPA and CARES money that resulted in a lot of contracts. So that's why the spike is so high there. But on each of these slides, what I really want to point out is the trend line that you'll see over the decade. And really what you'll notice is that there's been a gradual increase in terms of the number of contracts our office is completing. In fact, in 2025, we completed 1,002 contracts. So when we mostly have 5 attorneys do those, that's about 200 contracts a year for each of those attorneys, which equates to roughly 1 contract per business day. And I could talk through this, and I have talked with some of the commissioners about this. Our attorneys do much more than represent 1 or 2 departments. In fact, I think on average, each of them is the primary attorney for, about 7 departments. If you do 48 divided by 7, and then the backup for probably 7 others. And then I assign them all kinds of other fun projects too. So our attorneys have a lot of work, but contracts, those attorneys who work on them doing about 200 a year for those 5 attorneys is pretty significant. In terms of the next item, this has lawsuits and claims. So these would be lawsuits and claims brought against Sedgwick County. Again, you'll notice an upward trend on that. There's some years it dips down a little bit, but really you're seeing overall an upward trend on the line there. Those require work. Even if we hire outside counsel, our office is still heavily involved in those cases. We don't just hand them to outside counsel and do no work on them. We often are handling a lot of these cases in-house anyways. And so that is something that requires additional work, not just for our attorneys, but also for our support staff as well. And the last one on here is resolutions, which we, of course, craft a lot of resolutions for your county commission agenda. You'll see a similar upward trend on resolutions. And part of the reason I focus on those trend lines and where they're going is we represent 48 different departments. I know I mentioned back a couple of slides ago that we have to have different knowledge and expertise to help advise. You guys are going to hear budget hearings. There's 40 some budget hearings. Well, every group that you're hearing from, we provide legal advice to them. And they come to us when they have unique circumstances, when they have challenging projects, stuff they haven't encountered before. And so it's a lot of work for us to do that across the organization. And I think most of those 48 departments would have trend lines that are upward, similar to what you've seen in contracts, resolutions, and lawsuits. Moving ahead, I've done some analysis of our peers in terms of how many attorneys we have compared to how many attorneys they have. The city of Wichita has 10 civil attorneys. They just recently, within the last year, transferred 1 prosecutor position into a civil position. So they have 10 civil attorneys. Our office has 7 civil attorneys. Again, while the sheriff's legal advisor is not in our office, even if you counted that position, there would only be 8. Johnson County has 12 civil attorneys. When we went through our budget presentation with the manager's office, one of the things that was suggested, manager's office and other staff, one of the things that was suggested was to calculate number of attorneys per employee in the organization. So we calculate this on this graph here with the one on the left is Sedgwick County. If you take the 7 attorneys in the county counselor's office, it's 450 employees per attorney. The orange in the middle there is Johnson County. They would have 367. And then City of Wichita has 348. Even if you would add in the sheriff's legal advisor, our number is still the highest. It ends up being, I believe it was 394 is what that adds up to. So we would still be the highest on this. And I also want to stress, this isn't the only measure to indicate complexity and work for attorneys. I certainly think the city of Wichita's attorneys are busy. I'm very familiar with their workload. I know they're not. They remain busy. But we have, again, 48 departments has been mentioned. We have to advise every single one of those. I think the city of Wichita has around 15 or 20 different departments. So I think in terms of the complexity, there's a lot asked of our 7 attorneys right now. in terms of how these goals tie in to this, we have 4 goals, and all those challenges, all of those goals have challenges that stem from workload demand issues. So, and I listed those 4 opportunities that we had. If we had an 8th attorney, I think we'd be able to realize more of those opportunities, enhance cross training, have depth in the organization would be better. But I did want to mention, I think an important part on this is in going through this decision package, we did think if we had an 8th attorney, how would we utilize them? And one of the things we would intend to utilize is we would take our primary litigating attorney, who currently is the primary attorney on several different departments, and probably assign them to more litigation. They'd be handling more hearings. There'd be less outside counsel usage with that. And also the new attorney would probably be our secondary litigation attorney. And we did a calculation figuring our typical outside counsel cost per hour for partners and associates in law firms. And if you took the number of hours that we would have in-house attorneys able to take on lawsuits and litigation and did the math on that, it would cover about 74% of the decision package ask that's here. So in other words, you would have some cost savings that would cover almost 3/4 of this just by being able to handle more stuff in-house. I do think it's always important to consider the risks, in this case, of the status quo. I'd have concerns about our responsiveness and turnaround time. I would worry about our office having increased errors. We strive very much to avoid that for a lot of reasons. And I also have concerns about burnout for our attorneys and support staff just because the current workload. I have concerns about the sustainability of that. You'll see on this page, and again, the salary and benefits, the $131,000 approximately is what the decision package ask would be. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions, commissioners.
Mr.
Or just a comment, I can see why you're an attorney. You argue your case very well today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very professional, convincing. I would say you probably win, so.
I guess that's where I'm supposed to just go sit down, right?
I'll give you some sales advice. You sit down when you're done. That's good. Hey, it's not on this one, Justin. Good job. I think the commissioners that you guys serve understand the workload that your office goes on. So I appreciate the work. My question is really for Lorian. You used to have a summary of all the decision packages? We have a spreadsheet. Is it in here somewhere that I can find?
It is. It's right at the front before the budget summaries.
Right.
Page 1.
That's good. I'm asking Pete. I'll put my glasses on. I'm fine.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate it.
Looks like we're about 10 minutes ahead. You guys want to go ahead and take your breaks?
I need my glasses. Yes.
Can I borrow the journal scanner? The boss is spoken. All right, get it together. All right, Lori.
Right.
Okay, we're back for information technology. We're on page 233 of your binders. I hand it over to Scott Wagner.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Scott Wagner, CIO. This technology stuff's kind of confusing here for me. All right, so first I want to talk a little bit about SWAT, and I just want to hit on a few high points here. So one of the things that you'll see in the upper left is the highly skilled workforce. We're trying to double down on that. And one of the programs we've kind of rolled out is called a technology roadmap. And our intent is to provide exposure to our team to the departments that we serve. And so we want to get in front of them. We want to expand their horizons while also helping each department kind of map out their future. And so I just wanted to future from a technology standpoint. Just wanted to cover that. One other thing here is that AI is under threats. It absolutely is a threat, but it's also on the left side as well. It's an opportunity. And so one of the things that we've been just been talking about it right before this, is we've been sponsoring a program called Gov AI, and we'll talk about that as a little bit more. But the intent is to provide every county employee in groups that support the use of AI, because we do have some exceptions, give them that opportunity to use it as a personal productivity tool. And I think you're going to find that it's your ally when you're doing research and other of those kinds of things. And then eventually, I hope that it helps open up our eyes as a group to what might be the future in some areas. Where else could AI help us? So we're using what you guys would consider kind of employee or personal productivity AI, like ChatGPT, those kinds of tools. This Gov AI falls into that sense, but AI can do a lot more than that. Third thing I want to talk about is costs, and you'll notice here tariffs, supply chain issues, et cetera, federal funding. We are seeing this real time, and the team will, I don't know, we'll talk about it here, but we had a number of decision packages that became cost of doing business, and we are seeing real change out there in terms of technology costs, things that we can't push back hard enough to keep those from coming. And so while we try, what we're seeing, for example, is we might get a quote on a Tuesday, and James has described this to me. It might be some PCs, and by the next Friday, when we're ready to do it, they say, "Oh, our costs have changed in the interim. We can't honor those costs." So that is unlike we've seen before. So this inflation is real, and it is a burgeoning cost for us. So with that, moving on here. So our total budget, and again, we have the asterisks around personnel has not increased yet enough and some of those other pieces. So at this point, you'll see a slight drop in our ask for 2027. I've looked over some of the years. Personnel as a portion of our spend is not much different than 50%. In 2019, we were a tad bit below or a tad bit above 50%, and now we're a tad bit below. And the cost that's driving us is these contractuals. So they've just been coming and coming. And so we have software companies that are also saying, hey, we might normally in a stable environment charge you 1% to 2%, extra per year, but we feel compelled to drive closer to 5% to 10%. So that is difficult for us, but we've tried to model what we believe those contractuals will be into the next year. All right. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the Blue Man Group. First, we will have Greg Gann, and then we will have James Arntz. Greg is the Deputy CIO. James Arntz is our Head of Infrastructure. And Bill, while he doesn't have a speaking part today, is Head of Information Security. When we get down to Technology Review Board a little bit later, you'll see these guys again. I don't think we'll be wearing the blue, though. We'll stick to whatever random stuff we have. So anyway, Greg?
Like that random stuff. This ask is for a additional full-time project manager to the team. Over time, our technology project portfolio has grown significantly, both in the number of projects that we manage and how complex these projects have become. At the same time, our project management team has stayed in recent years at just 2 project managers. For a great number of years, it was just me. The last time we had a significant project management team was 2009, when we had 5. So where we are right now is with the technology roadmap. This has demonstrated a very strong need and demand for project leadership across all 48 departments. As Deputy CIO, I often have to step in and take on project management responsibilities to help balance the workload. It does put added pressure on our ability to plan well, coordinate resources, communicate consistently with departments and leadership, and keep projects on schedule and within scope. We partner very closely with purchasing following Charter 68. Our project managers are PMP certified.
which is the highest certification that project management can achieve. We're very active in that, and we are spreading that culture across not just IT, but across the organization. Adding a third project manager gives us the capacity we need to better manage our workload, identify risks earlier, and improve overall project delivery in support of our organization's priorities.
Okay, whoops. What we're asking in this one is taking a part-time position and converting it to a full-time position for our security surveillance technician. Last year, a position was moved over to IT from facilities to handle the camera systems. And with that, midway through that year, we had a position due to transitioning of courthouse police that was moved over to IT for the rest of the year until the end of the year. And then that position stopped being around. So we went from 2 back down to 1. Part of the issue is we have over 2,500 cameras. We deal with the badge access system, door controls, even the gate for the judges is part of that. But that isn't just for one building, that's for all buildings across the county. So we have one person doing that currently. So we have an issue whenever he goes on vacation or is out sick. Now we have a problem where if there is a camera issue, we have to really get in there and figure out what we need to do. What we'd like to do is take this part-time position, flip it to full, have them be a part of that team and grow that team out. To be able to help with some of that preventative maintenance, help with patching. One of the other issues that keep happening, it was referenced before that we have a lot of buildings that are coming up, buildings that are being redone. We have camera systems that are coming online, so that 2,500 is slowly growing month by month as we build into this. There is some savings that come in because if you have someone else that is part of this helping, then that's less calls to the vendor that helps maintain that because we're able to offset some of those costs by being able to have that individual work through cleaning those cameras, keeping them up to date, looking at that preventative maintenance. It helps with the reliability and integrity of the critical county safety and security systems that we deal with at DOC, Sheriff's Office, and other places across the county.
The third decision package is what we've tapped Grow Your Own IT education program. So this is a program we intend to start if we're given approval to proceed. Having a strong management team is vital to our ability to drive modernization. Throughout the organization, this program will help us establish strong succession plans. This will be facilitated through an application process where we have folks put their needs in and then we respond to those and pick a winner, if you will, up to some parameters noted here, 15,000 in annual tuition, 3.0 GPA. We have a minimum credit hours and whatnot, and then they are required to sign a retention agreement. So this provides us that stability we want and need into the future in terms of my team. And frankly, I mentioned modernization. I do believe that IT can be an enabler for supporting some of these modernization, and occasionally that can lead to some efficiency improvements, those kinds of things through the use of technology. All right, questions on, frankly, any of those decision packages?
Scott, on number 3, is there an opportunity for sponsorships, scholarships that would help fund? It's not a lot of money. I see the 15,000.
Oh, had not even considered that. We'll look into that.
What other questions?
Yeah, good idea.
I don't know. I love the idea. I think it's great. I just thought maybe.
Thank you. Alternative reduction programs or packages, I don't know what they're called here. Reductions. So frankly, these are two modest ones and I will skip through them. But basically we looked hard for what we could do to save some money, give some back. And we've looked at basically licensing, both from this first thing, which was more of an internal education system. And the second one, which is more about handling and recording CommCare workers. So we feel these have run their course. They've been mooted since they started in COVID era, if you will. Let's see. That's the totals. And then here's the kind of the bottom line for the division. About 200,000 in decision packages and a modest couple thousand in reductions. Questions?
Scott, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate the gang and all the information. This is really interesting. I want to just make a comment how much I appreciate the investment that the counties make in IT here and the cybersecurity piece that we do. Do you have provide some context? How is this department? We're looking at 70 some employees. Is that right total?
Yeah, closer to 80. Probably.
Okay. How does that compare to other like City of Wichita government and their IT department, other counties our size? Do we have any? And I'm saying this not as I don't want it to be perceived as a threat.
Not at all.
I actually think that we're doing it right here. I think that we have an investment here, that we're investing into cybersecurity in ways that I don't know have happened in other jurisdictions. We talk about the things, the technology, how to modernize what we do here. So I'm saying this because I think we're doing some things right. I'm just curious contextually if we have any idea how we compare.
Yeah, and I might ask other guys up here who've been around. They participate in programs called GMIS. Some of the associations that we have get together periodically every year, connect on ideas and those kinds of things. So I think they're a little closer to that. I frankly haven't gotten there yet. I did take a note on actually when Lindsay was talking about the cost of government. I would be interested to be able to normalize that information against that very thing, ourselves against others.
We do a county is probably not a fair comparison. Cities in some regards because of all that we do in regards to the courts and the jail and the treasurer's office and all the security that we have to those things. So it may not be a fair comp. I'm just really proud of the work that's happening in this department. And I think
appreciate that.
there's a lot of heavy lifting that's happening behind the scenes. My second question has to do with the project manager. You let me know what kind of projects. I remember I worked with the tag office on some of the things, and I know we had an individual from your office that was doing a lot of work with the appraiser and some of the different deals. What kind of projects do we have that are kind of in the queue right now, and do we have things that are on hold?
There are things that are on hold due to capacity. You'll find out on Friday the number of projects we're presenting for TRB. But currently we have active projects for the appraiser's office, for the treasurer, for county clerk, county counselor's office, the sheriff, 911. We're across the board, mainly public safety, but we cover the other offices as well.
And finance, right?
Oh, absolutely, finance. We couldn't. And that's part of why I've asked for another project manager, because I've had to loan a project manager so finance could do their S4 project.
Sure.
So that was a very heavy lift.
We talk a lot about, this commission talks a lot about modernizing local government and what that looks like. Does this help? These investments here, does it help with some of the modernization?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just, our own internal discussions. We do discovery with the departments and with our peers in the industry. We make sure that we've looked under every rock and behind every bush to find out the best possible solution to pursue. We also spend a lot of time making sure that we're getting an appropriate return on our investment, so that we're using the public dollars in the best possible way. We also look at our licensing annually to make sure that we're right where we need to be and not too much, not too little. We're always fighting with the vendors to get the best possible price. And that is one of the trickier things. As I mentioned earlier, costs continue to move in directions we don't like.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Can I piggyback off of that question on the project manager? Is this the same position that I believe you guys requested a position to be added last year. Is this that same position? I can't remember.
No,
Different.
this is a distinct position.
Okay.
Would that person please stand up? He doesn't even know.
You're okay.
So yes, a distinct piece. I will just add about project managers. They are they're the glue that, and also the driver that keeps things moving, because we all have so many things going on. They are that constant reminder that says, hey, we got to move forward on this. We're not going to drop this ball. And so I feel strongly, based on my experience in the past, I probably started as a project manager. I identified that as much as anything in the early part of my career. So I know a good project manager will help. And so when it talks to modernization, it is the cumulative effect of more of our initiatives across our departments that will bring that modernization. I think so. Great. Other questions? Thanks, guys.
We just have one more presentation today from MAPD, and we are running ahead. I know Scott is on his way right now, so might just be a couple minutes and then we should be ready for the last one.
Double class. Just got a little something here I wanted to refer back to.
Did I tell you about the time I opened my water bill, my electric bill at the same time? Oh, it was shocking. My electric bill. Yeah, darkest days of my life. Did I tell you about the guy who passed out on the Ferris wheel?
No.
No, don't worry, he's okay. He's coming around.
Keep going or we're good?
Why are you so Scott Ladle?
I don't know. It's getting hot in here. I haven't even shared anything about the budget, and I'm already starting.
You want to start us with one?
Sure. Hey, I'm always studying up on history, and I just found out that French fries do not come from France. No, they were originally cooked in Greece. Yeah. And then, did you hear about Darth Vader's brother? Yeah, Taxi Vader. Sorry, Taxi. He's in federal prison. Yeah, his name's Taxi Vader. All right. Yeah, I kind of. Sorry. High pressure moment. Okay. Yeah, that's it right there.
On page 198.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay, should I go ahead? Okay, I'll go ahead and roll. All right. It's good to see you all. Scott Wadle, Planning Department. And we've got a few handouts. We've actually added a third one to this, which is notes that come to you from the meeting that we had with the city manager talking about the MAPD budget. So just want to let you know about that. I'll refer to that later on. Okay, so our mission and services, I think you're well familiar with us, so and what we do. So I'll just go ahead and skip through that. We have 4 divisions. We have current plans, zoning enforcement, advanced plans, and administration. So those are our 4 divisions, and then you can see all the folks that we provide reports to or answer to. So that's our org chart, and we have 20 FTEs at this time. So actually, it's 20 plus. We've got a part-time neighborhood inspector which works on short-term rentals for the city of Wichita. In terms of our structure, it's 50-50 for most of our department, not quite all. So 50% from the city, 50% from the county. And then out of that, we also subtract the fees and applications for applications that come in and also permits. So, and
And at the end of the year, if there's any that's left over, it's divided 50-50 and sent back to the county and the city. The one section that's unique is the zoning enforcement division, which does zoning enforcement for the city of Wichita. That's JR's group. And they are funded out of the MABCD fund. And that was part of the creation of MABCD that resulted in that. And then we have that part-time short-term rental position there as well. And they do that just for the city. Okay, I made the note here about the short-term rental funding. I think we covered that. I can go back if there's any questions on it, but just know that that's entirely funded by short-term rental license fees by the city. So there's no county funding in that one. In terms of our revenues, so you can see here the largest splits are from the city and from the county. So that accounts for about 63% of our budget. You can see that we do charges for services is about 20%. And then we've got the MABCD reimbursement for the 16.5%. In terms of expenditures, it's pretty much all people. So it's all staff, except for a little bit for contractual. So we do this for printing of stuff related to cases, also contracts with consultants to help us out with different things. In terms of the county budget, where we fall for general fund is we're at 38th out of 46, and we account for a 13th of 1% of the county general fund. So coming in at about just over $800,000. So we're very efficient. That's what I like to say, very efficient. In terms of strengths, opportunities, and weaknesses, so our strengths is that we're very close to nearly fully staffed, and that's fantastic because we struggled for a while to get there. And now that we're there, it's very exciting. We've got a good leadership team. I think city and county leadership, you're all very engaged, and I appreciate that very much. And there's also good communication between the city and the county, and I appreciate that very much. I think we've got really robust and good processes. And then a strength of ours is that we've got a lot of generalists, not really specialists. We're kind of like Swiss Army knives. We can do a lot of different things, but like an inch deep and a mile wide, right? Kind of thing. But a weakness is that we still have very inexperienced staff. They're learning, but when we get staffed up, that means we've got a lot of new people, and it's going to take some time to get everyone kind of robust in terms of experience. And then technology, we could definitely use it better, and we're working on that. It's going to take some time to get there in terms of if you're a citizen, you want to see stuff on the website. It's difficult to find case information, all that jazz. We're working on it. And again, we're generalists, which is an advantage, but the weakness is that when it comes to specialized things, we do need to get help from the outside to help us out with that. Okay, and then opportunities, more robust use of technology, streamlining and aligning our codes. You're seeing that with the accessory apartments, discussion going on about parking coming up. So we're working on those. And then opportunities, contracting, and partnerships with other organizations. And then threats, legislative actions at the state can cause a lot of turmoil for us, a lot of changes. So we're keeping an eye on those. Zoning enforcement retirements, almost everyone in that division is eligible for retirement this year and going forward in about 4 or 5 years. So I think there's a real risk that we're going to lose a lot of folks there. And then facilities maintenance are wonderful. They're doing a great job, but the Reagan building does present some challenges just because of the nature and age of that building and other things that were going on before the county acquired it. So, but they're doing a great job. So in terms of cases, here's where we had cases in 2025 in the county. You can see those kind of spread out, except for that northwest quadrant. So we didn't quite have as many up there this year, or last year, I should say. Here's where the cases were in the city. And key performance indicators, I'm just going to go through these pretty quick. I think you've got a set of these already, but I just want to point out that we've tracked the number of cases that go to the MAPC. So non-subdivision items, these are zoning cases, variance cases, and not vacation cases, zoning and variance. And you'll notice that it's really spiky, but at the very end of the year, it got just had a lot of cases. So it comes down to about 11 cases per MAPC meeting, which is just slightly above our 10 where staff are comfortable at current plans. But again, our maximum was up at 21. So there are times when we're working really hard, and then there's times when we've got a little bit of a breather, but really not too much of a breather. So I always look for where there are 3 times that we have those dots above the staff line, because that's when I know people are starting to get pretty stressed out. Okay, we'll keep rolling. In terms of the number of cases last year, we had 272 of those non-subdivision cases. That is the second highest amount since we've been kind of tracking them in this format since 2018. So pretty robust work. In terms of subdivision items, very spiky on this one. With that one, we ended up with a median of about 2, but the maximum was 10. So again, same story here, very spiky, very high. We finished with 78 cases, which is tied for the most since 2018. So again, doing a lot of work on that end. In terms of number of lots, not a lot of lots. It's a yellow bar for 2025. And what you see is that we're not creating a lot of lots with the activity, which tells me that we're doing a lot of rural subdivision lots of like 3, 4 lots that are being created. In terms of the number of days to get the cases from application to the governing body, you can see for the county, we're at 83. You'll notice the difference between the city and the county, and that is just because there's additional time for review and processing. It works out just fine. I think it's a good process. We're under the 90 days, which is what we tell people. So I think we're doing a good job. In terms of the citizen survey, I would just point out that most people in the county are unfamiliar with what we do. So something to work towards is providing information about what it is that planning and zoning does. In terms of anything that's overturned or sent back, we didn't have anything in 2025, which is cool. In terms of our cost recovery, it's gradually gone up. And we did an increase in fees to get it to about that 30% level. And that's what we're seeing, which is fantastic news. We'll let you know if it goes higher, if it goes lower. We're going to keep an eye on it. But in terms of processing costs and cost recovery for that, we're doing well. In terms of efficiency, this is information that you saw before. We haven't updated this yet. But again, I would just emphasize that we're very efficient, especially when it comes to other combined city and county departments, planning departments. Okay, so in terms of our budget, so you can see here it is, what's requested for 2027, and that's without the program options. And again, we show up as a contractual in the budget. So just because it's a payment that goes out to the city. This one is a combination inspector for zoning enforcement. So again, we've got the issue of got a lot of people who are ready to, they're in a good position to retire in the next few years. We also have a high number of volume of cases in zoning enforcement. The challenge, though, is that, this is a joint city and county department. And so I will tell you that zoning enforcement does zoning enforcement for the city of Wichita. So we're asking for a position to do zoning enforcement for the city of Wichita. But again, the way that the other positions, except for the short-term rental one, are funded are by a reimbursement from the MABCD fund. So I'm pointing all of that out. Hopefully that's complete.
Let's stop there, Scott. So
yes, sir.
Historically, when MABCD was formed back in 2012, JR and this zoning group were under MABCD.
Yes, sir.
Through time, there seemed to be some benefit to moving that group under planning instead of MABCD. So it wasn't always this way from the beginning. It morphed into that. So now that they need, Jared's asking for another position basically here.
Yes, sir.
Long story short. Now to convolute this even further then, so the funding that goes from MABCD into the city funding is at 20% of revenue dictated by the courts in a ruling from the late 90s. So if we add positions and begin to add to this, does it violate the 20% rule, which we watched during the budget pretty carefully, and that's been violated over the years. City always wants it to go up. We always want it to come down to 20%. So I'm a little concerned that if this position is to be funded from MABCD funding, that skews the 20 percentile goal.
It very easily can. We'll look at that when we get a little closer. The part that maybe makes me more concerned and usual is that we are intentionally holding out right now because they do have a robust fund balance with that budget of the year is actually reduced. First, we'll have to dig into that.
Okay, so I just want to give the commission a history on that because some of you may not have remembered that.
And so reflecting some of that complexity, you'll see we've got two numbers here, like 51, 280, or 102. The 102 represents the full cost of the position. So, and the other one's obviously half of that. So, okay. Yep. So we talked about all of this. Boom. And so that's the number that we put in here was just 102 so that you would see that for total. But then in terms of the split, who knows how it's going to end up, but shows both options. The next one is to do office designs for the planning department. We are pretty much maxed out in terms of our desk space. So we have storage space though. And so what I'd like to do is to use a small amount of funding, $20,000, to hire a contractor or consultant to help us design what converting the storage space into office space would look like. So I think it's definitely doable. It's just a matter of just making sure that we've got all the things that are necessary. So 20 grand for that. It's just going to make it easier for us to have interns. It's going to make it easier for us to accommodate the staff that we've got in our organization. Yeah, and if we do nothing, then what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to make it work. And I'm not quite sure what that would look like at this point. But we are trying to clear out space by getting things scanned, getting things moved to the salt mines, and then clearing up additional storage space so we can use those.
Is the 20,000 the entire project, or is that the half that the county would pay?
That is the entire project. So
Theoretically, it could be a split with the city, even though I know on the white sheet that
yes, sir. Theoretically, it could.
And that's just for the drawings to convert that, or that's for the work to be done?
Just for the drawings. Yep. And it's based on a estimate that we got from the architect who worked on the Reagan building originally. And it's a few years old, but that's what that's the estimate.
Are you digitizing plans, or are you still?
Yes, sir.
Salt mines.
We do both. So I don't want to throw away the hard copy because we have a bad history of doing that in the planning department. It didn't work out so well. And so I would rather scan it, have it digital, send it to salt mines, and then 20 years later, if we find out we never need them, we can get rid of them. But until that point, I just want to hang on to them just in case. So some of it we do if we can, if it's convenient, we do, but sometimes we contract it out. Yes, sir. Ready to roll? Okay. Okay, and that's why we show it as the 20,000, because at this time that we had a discussion with the city manager about all of our program options. And
that was a great question, Commissioner Wise. So is there any estimate on what the work would actually cost?
No, sir. We won't have that until we've got the designs to figure out what we're doing. Yeah. I'd like to be able to offer you reassurances that it's not going to be super expensive, but I don't have anything. Yeah.
How big of a space is that? I mean, it just seems like a lot of expense to design turning a storage into an office.
Yeah, we've got two. We have one storage room that we'd like to have converted. We have one office that is really big, and we would like to have another wall put in and all the boxes moved out and another desk and all the ports. And then there is an area between the conference rooms and ours where I'd like to punch a hole for a hallway to access one of the conference rooms. Instead of having to walk all the way around, you could just walk through
A little bit more space and then just.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Has county facilities not been involved in that at all, or okay?
Okay. Everyone ready for the next one? Okay. So again, the nature of a joint department, I'm presenting to you the same stuff that I showed to the city. This one is to update the Wichita Landscape Code and Guide. So we split it 50-50. And I will tell you, though, that the feedback that we got, and I didn't have it in here, is that the city manager's office indicated that their preference was to hold off until we get some of the initiatives that we're currently contracted for and working on completed before we really kind of take a bite at this one. So I'm presenting it to you, but just know that the city of Wichita at this time doesn't sound like they've got an appetite for this one. So with that, I'm just going to keep on moving. Okay, and then a revenue package. Yes, revenue. Three big ones here. $3,000 is what we're estimating. And it's a small amount, but it's a start. And here's what's happening is that we have cases, historic preservation cases and Delano design cases and Old Town design cases. And right now, when they submit an application, they don't pay anything. And so this would simply be a way to get them to have some skin in the game, $50 nominal fee. I don't think it's going to price anyone out. And over time, we can adjust it, but the hardest step is always going from no fee to a fee. And so I just wanted to figure to start at $50 and see where we go from there. Gosh, we did the estimate on this one. I think it's like exactly divide. I can do the math real quick, but it's yeah, it's pretty surprising when we add it all up. So yeah, not well, yeah. Okay, so $3,000. I'm just gonna keep going because it's a complicated answer. So yeah, $3,000. So at the end of the day, here's our spreadsheet. So with that, and I'll stand for any other questions.
It's not in our budget books because of these positions are funded by the city, but what is your staff? How many FTEs do you have at planning department?
We've got 20 FTEs plus part-time. So I think it's like 20 and a half. Yeah. Yep.
I think Scott's done analysis, peer analysis, and we are understaffed in our planning department when compared to.
That's not how it's right.
I don't know if it's the time and place to talk about the one sheeter that you brought.
Oh, yes, sir.
Maybe this is
Sorry.
one of the jokes that you were going to tell, or this is fair.
No, I wish I could try and work it into a joke, but I don't know. It's a little risky. So these are our notes. What we do is we write down our notes from the meeting with the city manager's office just to make sure that we're conveying, and we have them give them the opportunity to review and comment on it, and then we distribute it to make sure we're communicating correctly. And so with the office designs, as you saw there, that the city's really, they said, it's not really our facility, so not really inclined to fund that one. The zoning enforcement position, we relayed information that the county was looking for an agreement about MABCD, and the city manager's office seemed very open to doing that and actually inquired about what the current status was. So
ironic because they've had it for 6 months or more, right? So it's in their court. We would love to get an MABCD agreement done. So I'm just interesting that they're inquiring about it.
Planning department, we just step on all the landmines. It's like, thanks.
And I might have forgotten this on the landscape code and guide. And if the city manager wants to delay that, I understand. Did we, when you came through manager hearings, did we say we didn't want to pay?
Yeah, I think my recollection was just that because it was a city, it's a city thing, that it really is a city funding.
May not make some sense, but I mean, it's so the spirit of MAPD historically is always 50-50. It's a joint shared project between city and county. So I get sensitive when city wants to, we don't want to pay for something, the city doesn't want to pay for something because it begins to infringe upon the spiritual concept of 50-50. So and I guess the site over there, I understand it's a physical site in Reagan, of which the county charges the city no rent for, but that was part of the deal too when we bought Reagan, that they would not help with remodel of your office, which you probably, it sounds like you sort of radiated. So more discussion, I guess, between the manager and I, but want to make sure that I was reading this correctly.
Yes, absolutely. A couple of notes real quick is that we do have savings, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had savings at the end of the year. We have used that saving to do projects. And the nice thing about that savings is that it's funded through the fees that are collected for applications and also the 50-50 from the city and county. So I think of it as 50-50 money from the city and the county. So that has provided us the opportunity to hire consultants. Berkeley Group is being paid for out of that. Some scanning we did out of that. We got equipment like microphones out of that. So there's been a lot of ways that we've been able to use that. The last thing I would note is that the city manager's office did express interest in filling we have a frozen senior planner position. It's been frozen for a number of years, and that's where a lot of that savings has come from at the end of the year. And in addition, they've indicated that they are would like to add $50,000. And I don't know how that works out, but maybe 25 from the city, 25 from the county to help cover any of those other projects that come up. So that was kind of a new one and an addition that we added based on an email. It's not.
The all other revenue line, they're on the middle of the page, there's 24 actual, 25 actual, that how much of that we get returned to the county coming out of each and that, it was about 142,000 forward. 140,000. So that is about that.
That actually includes the position. So because right now, exactly. Yep.
I understand, Tom. I know you're pretty close to all this when the original consolidation. Are we getting scope creep away from our original agreements, or are we still?
No, when the merger happened, we had a lot of discussion. The spirit of that merger was to do building and construction side, so that planners and developers and builders had a one-stop shop with code that was similar throughout the county. At discussion was like the city inspectors over there, the neighborhood inspectors, chairman that you, I'm sure, dealt with much. They're very busy over there. It's about, I don't know, 16 to 20 staff probably. We didn't know where to put those. So they ended up under MABCD and were funded and continue to be funded by MABCD funding out of from the court settlement from the 1990s. So that's where the 20 percentile came. So there was scope creep from the beginning that really we talked about not making that part of the merger, but there was some a little bit of pushback from the city side at that particular time when I was on the city side that they wanted to keep it in MABCD. So I don't know. It's just something we pay attention to. I don't know if there's scope creep going on. I think they have a really good thing going with MABCD and MAPD. So we're just sensitive to the partnership and the spirit of the agreement and the spirit of being a 50-50 partner on particularly planning department. So
I would just encourage us to continue. I think it's easy sometimes for frustration to settle in and we drift from that spirit. I think we got to double down and continue to communicate that the heart of what this is 50-50. There's times where the county feels like we're probably the bulk of the work isn't county work, but we're participating at 50%. And I would just encourage us to continue in those pursuits. There's other areas to where it's inverted.
Yeah.
This is important to keep the spirit of the 50-50. Right?
And Scott and I joke about it. There was a discussion 3 or 4 years ago where commission thought that maybe ought to go instead of a 50-50, maybe ought to go to a 60-40, 70-30. And now since solar panels and data centers, I think now that probably the county uses more of Scott's time than we have in the past. So, and I think it all balances out over time, and it's just easier and easier for the customer too, for the citizens to understand kind of the spirit and intent of these agreements. So, especially on the MABCD side. So,
yeah, it is ironic. You see, we're building permits, more activity, more of the boilerplate stuff, and then this harder stuff that we're working on now out in the rural areas is sucking a lot more of your time.
Yeah,
I don't see any end in sight, Nebby. The way the county is growing, people want to come to the county, business and residential. I don't see this changing anytime soon. We're happy to have his staff. They do an excellent job, and they are strapped.
I would think it would probably be accurate to say by filling a position and maybe with more of its focus on city, that also relieves other positions that spend more time with us to do more work as a team, and in total. Would that be fair to say?
It would. So for the senior planner position, that one would be a generalist. So they would be city and county. The inspectors are actually kind of self-contained in their own little thing. So they do just work on city stuff, except for JR, you see him all the time because he's working on city and county stuff. But the biggest risk that I think we run there is just that they have so much experience and they're all getting ready to retire at the same time. And no one else really knows what they do. So getting someone in there who can get ramped up before those retirements start would be really, really helpful.
Further questions?
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
And I want you to know we really appreciate getting to work with you all and for you all. So it's very helpful.
Yes. I guess one question here, as we start to wrap up, is I want to know if we've done everything we could to scare Ashton out of local government.